What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Touchdown Labs video. Today, I'm going to be doing my post free agency mock draft. Thanks to everybody who watched the last mock draft. We got over 1,000 views, 10 subscribers. Guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. The subscriptions help a ton, and that's what I need to keep moving forward. So let's go ahead and get started. And not only am I going to do this draft, but I've also gone ahead and done a lot of production work to rank free agency. I want to go through the additions, the departures, my free agency grade, and then finally my pick. And to make all of this 10 times better, I'll be putting myself on the clock. I'll be putting myself on the clock for about a minute to discuss all of this with you and then go ahead and make the pick depending on the team's needs. So let's go ahead and get the clock running and let's get started. Tennessee Titans, first up on the clock, armchair GMs, let's go. Additions, I'm going to be honest with you guys. How do we read this? They got a guard, a left tackle, and they just revamped their whole O-line. Left tackle Dan Moore, 4 years, 82 million, likely a little bit of an overpay, but they're not trying to draft all of that in the first round, the top of the first couple of rounds here. One thing I'll say, this is forecasting me to say that they're going to go ahead and they're going to pick Cam Ward. I know it's something that a lot of content creators are suggesting right now. Daniel Jeremiah has this mocked as well. I honestly think that with the guard pick at Kevin Zettler, Van Jefferson coming in as, they need wide receiver as well. Left tackle Dan Moore, they paid him a boatload of money. It just forecasts that they're going to go ahead and pick quarterback. So I will do that with their pick. First pick off of the board is Cam Ward. And then next, who do we have coming up on the clock? The Cleveland Browns. How did the Cleveland Browns do in free agency? I gave them a C+. They got Malik Collins. Former Cowboys fans will know him. 2 years, $20 million. Devin Bush, 1 year deal, $3.5 million. He's kind of fell off. QB Kenny Pickett was traded from the Eagles to the Browns, so it looks like they're shoring up that backup position for themselves. And they had their backup QB leave as well, but they have James Hudson, who also went ahead and left. So it really tells me that they're not focused on getting their quarterback for the future. They're kind of just building their team the best that they can. I don't know what they've gone ahead and said. And one thing I will say is something that's out of scope in this mock draft is that, oh, guys, forgot to set the clock. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give myself 30 seconds here. But something that's out of scope in this mock draft, I'm not grading if they should have re-signed their own. If they should have re-signed their own, good for them. They should be figuring out how to use the cap and figure that out. This is about adding positions to your team to help you move forward. I don't know what they said to Myles Garrett to make him re-sign. They did give him that mega contract at $40 million. He's the highest paid edge now, and I think there is an even higher paid non-quarterback just after him. But they're going to go ahead and they're going to pair Myles Garrett up with Abdul Carter. They're going to get the two best edge defenders in the NFL, and we'll go ahead and stop the clock there at 36 seconds. Abdul Carter goes ahead, joins the Browns, and he makes that one of the best defensive lines, something they can build off. They got a cheap quarterback in Kenny Pickett where they can move forward there, and I don't think they'd go Shadur Sanders or Travis Hunter here. It's just too much of a value pick for me, and we all saw how the defensive line on the Eagles affected that Chiefs team in the Super Bowl. I think they continue to build their team on the defensive line and build in the trenches. Next up on the clock, we'll give ourselves a minute here. We have the New York Giants. So I'm grading the Giants with a C+ here. You'll see in the video, guys, not a lot of A's, tons of C's, tons of B's. Really, to get an A, I feel like you need to address needs to make your team successful, right? They got players to make their team better here, but they still don't have a quarterback. Javon Holland, 3 years, $45 million. I think that contract's well-deserved, so no concern there. Paulson Adebo, 3 years, $54 million. They shored up a cornerback position where they had a lot of trouble. They picked Chauncey Golston from the Cowboys, 3 years, $19.5 million. And last, they got a left tackle, James Hudson, that we just saw departed the Browns. He goes ahead to the Giants, 2 years, $12 million. Looks like that's more of a stopgap player. So what are we saying when they come to going ahead and drafting somebody? We have 10 seconds left on the clock here, guys. I think they're going to go ahead and take Travis Hunter. They're going to take the best player in the draft. I don't see them going any other way. They could take Shadur Sanders, but I have a feeling with all the smoke that came out of the Matthew Stafford going to the Giants, there's a lot of smoke with Aaron Rodgers going here too, and them getting a veteran quarterback and going this route. So we're going to go ahead and say that they don't make the mistake. They take one of the best players in the draft. They make life easy for themselves and pick Travis Hunter off the board. Now, on the clock, we have the Patriots. The Patriots are coming up at the number 4th pick. They had a pretty good free agency. Gave them a B+ here. Lots of signings, right? Defensive tackle Milton Williams, 4 years, $104 million. Really rich contract. I think a lot of folks expected him to get paid, and he did. They shored up their cornerback position. Carlton Davis goes from the Lions, 3 years, $60 million. You could say the Lions upgraded with DJ Reed, but that's to be seen. Harold Landry, 3 years, $45 million. He joins his old coach and Mike Vrabel, and then they got an offensive tackle, Morgan Moses, that can play on the line, 3 years, $24 million there. So they did spend one of the most cap-heavy teams coming into the offseason. So what do they do here? They've addressed tackle, they've addressed O-line, they've addressed corner, and when you look at their biggest needs, it's O-line, wide receiver, defensive line, running back, cornerback. So where do they lean? I think I had Will Campbell going here last time. I feel like the Morgan Moses signing maybe makes it so they don't have to do that. They also have a big need at wide receiver, so they could go ahead and pick their first wide receiver off the board. And when we look at wide receiver, we're looking at Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden. Guys, some of these picks in the beginning will take a little bit longer because we have some things to discuss. But the two guys that stand out to me, Ted McMillan, Matthew Golden, and then the last guy here on the defensive line, Mason Graham. So I'm going to go ahead and say they shore up their defensive line. They take Mason Graham with the 4th pick. They go ahead and they fix their O-line. They do need a wide receiver, but I just don't think Ted McMillan is that player to go at number 4. I think the Patriots can circle back, get a wide receiver in the 2nd round. Defensive line to me is something where, Mason Graham's in that first tier. You're going to get a 2nd-tier player when you go down the list here and you go into the end of the 1st and the beginning of the 2nd. They can still get likely a 1st-tier wide receiver depending on how the board falls. So moving to our 5th pick now, we have Jacksonville on the clock. Jacksonville, how did they do in free agency? Gave them a flat-out C. They got Patrick McCarry on the O-line. They're trying to protect Trevor Lawrence. Signed Jordan Lewis to the highest, inside cornerback deal in history, 3 years, $30 million. And they got another center here, Robert Hainsey, starting center, to protect Trevor Lawrence in the trenches. One thing their new head coach has come in and said is that Trevor Lawrence needed some help, and I think that they've gone ahead and addressed that. So in terms of their needs, defensive line is a big one. That's why I'm going to say the Patriots take Mason Graham. They see the Jaguars right behind them, and they probably think the Jaguars are looking at that. Now, what are we looking at next? Cornerback and safety. And I think cornerback's a position that can go this high. Got Sanders, Campbell, Genty, Membu, McMillan, Warren. Now, this is where we start to have the conversation around Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron. You'll see Jahdae Barron's listed here at number 16. Will Johnson's coming up on their board here as the number 11th ranked player. What am I looking towards? Jahdae Barron, a little bit more of a nickel corner. Will Johnson plays on the outside. I think they go ahead and solidify Will Johnson here to be that outside corner for them. Unfortunately, they also have needs at edge, right? So, like for an edge defender here, I think they'll have options at the top end of the 2nd round. I think edge is a deep class. I'll go ahead and take Will Johnson for the Jacksonville Jaguars, fill out that need for them as well. And once again, when we looked at the Jaguars free agent signings, yes, they signed Jordan Lewis on the inside, but this goes ahead and makes me shore up that secondary on the outside. If we don't want to go that pick, I can still see them going O-line as well, but I don't think anybody's left that high. Don't think they go Will Campbell, so we'll go ahead and say corner. Next, we have Las Vegas coming up on the clock. Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, they signed Geno Smith, 3rd-round pick. Gave up quite a bit of capital. Tom Brady's joined that organization to be, one of the overseers. They go ahead and pay Geno Smith 3 years, $37.5 million. Raheem Mostert's there to run the ball. They signed they traded for actually Alex Kappa, signed Jeremy Chin, replacing Trayvon Moehrig, who is a departure for them. Raiders set themselves up to pick Ashton Genty. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Running back is one of their biggest needs. So is wide receiver. So that is what I'm looking at when I'm the Raiders here. My number one running back is on the board. My number one wide receiver is on the board as well. What am I going to do here if I am the Raiders organization? I think I'm going to lean to taking Genty at number 6. He's the best player on my board when it comes to my top 50. There's plenty of needs to address for this new regime, but I think giving them a QB1 and a running back 1 sets this team up for success in the long-term future. Takes a lot of pressure off Geno Smith his first year, and I'm going to go ahead and say that these guys go and pick that running back as they're picking the draft. And next up, we have coming up the Jets. So Jets go ahead and sign Justin Fields. We're going to give him a C+. I'm going to say that, Justin Fields, 2 years, $40 million is quite an overpay. They have Jamie and Sherwood here as a linebacker, continue to, build that defense. They do have a ton of departures. Aaron Rodgers, starting wide receiver Devontae Adams, who was traded to the Rams, edge Hassan Reddick, who barely even played for them, but cornerback DJ Reed's a big one going to the Lions. So where do the Jets lean? They need help on the O-line. They need help at wide receiver. They need help at tight end. They need help at safety. They need help everywhere. So what do we have left? Will Campbell and Armand Membu are two guys that are just blinking lights to me right now when it comes to their needs. They got a quarterback to help them through this year. I still think they need to continue to hit out on a left or right tackle so they can continue to build for the future there. I'm going to say tackle-wise, I've changed my mind on this. I'm going to pick Membu to the Jets. I think as a straight-up tackle, he is probably the best option you have. Campbell can likely play multiple positions along the line, but since they are looking for a tackle, I go ahead and take that for them and solve an issue. There's areas to tighten up on the defense for the Jets, but it's not the case for the offense. They need a lot more help. It's not clear who's starting at right tackle for them, so I just went ahead and got that for Justin Fields starting for the Jets next year. Carolina's coming up. They got the biggest needs at edge, safety, cornerback, wide receiver, defensive line. When we look at the Panthers from a free agency perspective, I got them grading out to a C+. Trayvon Moehrig, big deal, 3 years, $51 million. Lots of Cowboys fans will remember him as a second-round pick, somebody we wanted. They took a shot on Rico Dowdle, 1 year, $3 million with incentives. I think Rico Dowdle will be good for them, good enough to start and just replace that production that they're getting from Miles Sanders and likely give them a little bit more with Chuba Hubbard there as well. Brady Christian, 1 year, $3 million center, nothing much to be said there. But they signed Tershawn Warden, 3 years, $54 million on the D line. So he's going to come up and pair with their other stout D linemen that they have. And now they could use help on edge, safety, cornerback. So when we look at edge, we still have a ton of them here. Jalen Walker's actually from Carolina, so that's an interesting prospect for myself. Shamar Stewart. I don't think I'd take Michael Williams this high, but I'd definitely consider James Pierce. If I'm going into safety, I'd think at number 8, that's too high of a value for me to go there. So the next option would be cornerback. And then for cornerback, I'm looking at Jahdae Barron. Definitely think edge is the way that they'll go. So let's have this discussion. Do we think they'll take that chess piece with Jalen Walker, or do we think they want a straight up edge defender? It'd be undoubtedly nice to give Bryce Young some shiny new toys, but the first order of business is fixing a defense that ranked dead last in points and yards allowed. So I think a good edge player will do that for them. I don't think they'll take Jalen Walker this high, but I think they go somebody like James Pierce. Tested extremely well at the combine, runs extremely fast. If he interviews well for them, I can see him going this way. I can also see Shamar Stewart being a pick. Michael Williams doesn't really have that pass rush ability for me, so I don't see him taking them that high. Jalen Walker would be a surprise for me going at number 8. And then we have New Orleans coming up next on the clock here. So for New Orleans, let's start our timer. Let's try to go a little bit faster here, guys. We got Justin Reed coming in from Kansas City, D-tackle Davon Godchow from the Patriots. Cornerback Paulson Adebo leaves here. Edge Peyton Turner goes to the Cowboys. I don't think they're missing much on edge for Peyton Turner. They need corner. They need wide receiver. They need offensive line. So we just looked at corner. It was Jahdae Barron sitting there. In terms of wide receiver, they got options, and they got options on the interior offensive line as well. This is where I see the Saints taking the first wide receiver off the board. Who it is, I don't know. Cornerback remains the biggest need, even after bringing in Isaiah Yiadom, who started 8 games for them. It's a wonder to see how tempted they be on offense here. But you know what? With the Saints needing cornerback real bad, I don't think they're going to be hesitant to take the swing on a Tet McMillan, because the only cornerback that's left here is Jahdae Barron, and he's playing in the slot. And I don't think they're going to value him the way he should be valued. Do I think Jahdae Barron should be picked there instead of Tet McMillan? Yeah, I do. I think Jahdae Barron's a better prospect, but I just don't think teams value the nickel corner like that. And with wide receiver up there, we'll go ahead and move next to the Bears. Bears come up on the clock. Let's go ahead and start. Grade A+, guys. It's the first A+ you're seeing from me. Reason being, I told you it's out of scope for me to count their re-signings or signing their own. If you got to sign your own, you got to figure out how to do that. But what are we doing with free agency and getting better? Trading for Jonah Jackson, trading for Joe Thuney, getting Grady Jarrett in here for $45 million, 3 years, getting Drew Dahlman here from the Falcons, 3 years, $42 million, literally rebuilt the whole offensive line in one draft. Offensive line comes off the board for me as a need. I don't think the Bears need to look there. They've set themselves up in a position to let really the draft fall to them. They don't need a tackle or a guard anymore. Their moves in free agency opened up a whole board for the team in the draft. They got to identify a long-term solution at left tackle. I don't think they're going to do that right now. They got to find a back to pair with DeAndre Swift. Would be tempting to go Ashton Genty if he's still on the board. Remember, we got the Raiders to take him off, knowing that he would definitely not be there. Maureen Hampton's here at running back. Offensive line, we still have Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Josh Simmons. And on the interior, we guys like Tyler Booker, Greg Zabel. I don't think they go in any direction here. Where do they go? I believe they go edge. Shamar Stewart is a freak, and he's projected to be the next Myles Garrett. Everything has gone off projections. Mike Green is somebody who I'd look at for them here. He has a production, but I think the small school Marshall product gets hit with that as a factor, and they want to take the guy from Texas A&M that just fits the bill in terms of how he looks and what he can provide. So I do have them taking Shamar Stewart, shoring up that edge. And guys, this is where the mocks are going to differ, right? We're getting into team needs. Folks have come off the board now. We have San Fran coming up. And the conversations just get that much harder as we go into the next 10 picks of the draft. We're at pick number 11. We have the 49ers coming up, D-, guys, on free agency. DeMarcus Robinson signed. He's a nobody. QB Mac Jones is put there as a insurance policy to Brock Purdy. I literally had to lower my font for the amount of departures that this team had. Biggest one being Deebo Samuel. They wanted to shed that contract. This team has zero cap money. They need to get a lot of things off the books. They couldn't sign Joey Bosa as well. Left guard Aaron Banks goes ahead and leaves to Green Bay. Left tackle Jalen Moore is gone. Safety Talona Hufanga is gone. He's gone to the Broncos. Dre Greenlaw as well. Elijah Mitchell goes ahead and leaves this team. This team is gutted. And it's because they need to go ahead and they need to sign Brock Purdy. Welcome to getting off the first quarterback contract and getting on to the second one. They got to have somebody that they find for Trent Williams as an heir. They got to find somebody opposite of Nick Bosa in the long term. Running back depth should not be overlooked. Biggest needs, defensive line, edge, offensive line, running back. I still think defensive line is somewhere they can go. I don't think guys like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan are taken this high. Neither is Derek Harmon, likely towards the back end. Now, San Fran, this is a team that I feel like will love the production that Mike Green's offering. They won't care he's from a small school. Trust me, they drafted Trey Lance. You think they care about trading picks and taking chances? They definitely do not. So Mike Green is a player that I have to them. I think he'll be great opposite Joey Bosa, and that was something that they tried to do in free agency when it came to, shoring up that other side. Gonna give the Cowboys a C plus. A lot of people might say that the Cowboys got a C minus. I think they're around that C range. Linebacker Kenneth Murray will definitely take a ton of snaps for them in the middle of the field while Demarvian Overshone rehabs that ACL. Cornerback Care Elam. I did a film session on him today, screwed up and didn't put my mic in front, so that's a little bit slow, but you guys can watch that. He's going to take snaps for the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs is injured. Cornerback is a huge problem for this team. They only have one starting corner right now with Deron Bland. Now they put Care Elam on the outside, and it puts Kalen Carson on the inside there. Is that how you want to start week one? I don't know. For me, probably not. Solomon Thomas here, 2 years, $8 million. Javonte Williams, probably one of the best second running backs in the league, leaves them open to draft the starter. Jordan Lewis departed, so that's another slot cornerback that's gone. DeMarcus Lawrence is gone, so that's an edge need. He didn't really even play for us last year. He's injured. And Rico Dowdle, starting running back, is departing as well. So our needs sit at wide receiver, running back, cornerback, linebacker. Honestly, the two things that I'm looking at, Matthew Golden, huge big blinking light for me, guys. Tuck said it too. Luther Burden, somebody he would take at this pick. He's sitting at the board there. Omari and Hampton has been mocked this high to Dallas. I don't think they go that route. Interesting enough, people are taking him at 12 in the first round. But another option for me if I'm a Cowboy, Jahdae Barron. I don't think if this is Will Johnson sitting here and the Saints go ahead and take Barron, I think the Cowboys run their card up and they take Will Johnson in the first round. He fits their measurables. He's an outside boundary corner. They got insurance for Trayvon Diggs. I feel like they'll go that route. Jahdae Barron, he's ranked so high for me on my big board, but I'm just thinking realistically as the Cowboys would. They're not going to take a nickel corner with number 12 on the board here. Not if they have a guy like Matthew Golden. Unfortunately, you'll see Golden's ranked number 21. Jahdae Barron's coming in ranked number 16. I still feel like that wide receiver is that bigger need for them. And Matthew Golden is somebody who I think fits the bill, goes beside CeeDee Lamb, isn't just a speed threat. They figure out wide receiver 2. They fix that offense. They'll go ahead and take running back in the second round here. Now, Dolphins are on the clock. Dolphins had a pretty garbage free agency as well, C minus here. They got a quarterback to play in Tua's absence because he seems to keep getting injured every single year. Melifonwu, cornerback signed here, low risk signing, $4 million 1 year, but they do get a guard, James Daniels, to shore up their offensive line. So they came into this needing O-line, and last time I had this interior offensive lineman drafted to them, Tyler Booker. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't even mind taking Tyler Booker from Dallas. I just don't see them going offensive line 3 years in a row. Remember, we had Tyler Smith and then we had Tyler Guyton. I don't see them taking Tyler Booker there at guard, but honestly, this is the kid with the aggression that you want at right guard to replace Zach Martin. So conversation for a different day, but had Tyler Booker to them. I don't think they go there. Now, they need help on the defensive line. This is where the value comes in. The main task is drafting a tougher unit on both the offensive and defensive lines. When we're looking at the interior offensive line, Tyler Booker is somebody they can take, but they just drafted that guard. Will Campbell, somebody up here as well. He is sliding, guys. He is definitely sliding. Shadur Sanders has slid. And you guys could say the Giants would have took him. Nah, I don't think the Giants. I think the Giants pass up on him. And if the Giants are passing up on him, then I think he's going to end up sliding. Now, defensive line, Walter Nolan. That's somebody who I can see the Dolphins picking. Some folks might have Walter Nolan too high. I think it fits a need. He's an edge rusher. He can play 3 technique, solves a lot of problems in Miami. Let's move to the Colts. Biggest need here is tight end, right? And they, need to protect the quarterback as well with O-line. And let's look at how the board fell, right? Chris Ballard's their GM. They need a starting right guard, and they need a tackle because both their tackles are a year away from hitting free agency. So they went ahead and their worst position they shored up. They got Charvarius Ward from San Fran, Cameron Bynum, Khalil Herbert as a backup running back, but they lost Ryan Kelly and offensive guard Will Fries. So it's very easy for me to take, Tyler Warren to these guys because every single person thinks that they're going to take tight end. But no, I'm going to take offensive line. Will Campbell is there. He's slid, and he's the best player available on my board. Now, coming into the Falcons at number 15, they need edge. They need defensive line. No, it's not their only area of need, but they had a C- when it came to free agency. They have to find a way to turn things around on their pass rush. They lost center Drew Dalman. They lost defensive lineman Grady Jarrett. Every other team has at least 198 sacks since 2019. This team has 169 sacks, like one of the worst pressure rates over that span. So who is left on our board? And I definitely think they'll take this player, Jalen Walker. I think he's dropped a little bit too far. They can use Jalen Walker on the edge. They also need help on the defensive line, but I think that is a glaring need that they can pick up and take right away. Now we have the Cardinals coming up on the clock at number 16. The Cardinals are ranked with a C. Yes, you signed Josh Sweat for 4 years, $77 million, and you took care of your edge need. Still have needs at offensive line. You signed your defensive tackle there, Dalvin Tomlinson, as well. Really not too many departures. And I have a perfect pick here when it comes to what they need, right? Arizona is at least one more quality starter away from having its offensive line okay to good. And they need a burner at receiver to push them to the next level. I know they just took wide receiver in the first round last year. There's spots to shore up, right, on that offensive line. So I think the conversation becomes, is it Tyler Booker or is it Kelvin Banks? And for them, because of the position versatility and the fact that Banks can likely play tackle and guard, I'll take Banks over Booker. I think Booker's the better interior offensive lineman, but really for myself, guys, Booker is an interior offensive lineman. He cannot be versatile on the offensive line. So go ahead and say that the Arizona Cardinals fill in a need there by going ahead and taking Kelvin Banks. Now we have the Bengals coming up next. The Bengals were 9-8. Their biggest needs: edge, safety, linebacker, offensive line, corner. Might be looking at an all defensive draft by the Bengals, who made a big investments to keep their star wide receivers in town. They got big investments now in Joe Burrow, a big one in T. Higgins, and another big one in Jamar Chase. 4 years, $161 million for Jamar, highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. T. Higgins goes to 1 year, T. Higgins, it's more than 1 year. I believe it's 4 years as well. But he's getting 26.2 per year. So we might need this team to replace Trey Hendrickson. They might need to find pass rush. They need to find him a complement because he can possibly even leave as well. So edge is somebody that I'm looking at here for them. Mykel Williams is the 15th best player here. More of a run stopper. Depends on what they want. Second and third levels of defense cannot be ignored. Jahdae Barron is sitting here, one of the best nickel corners. Jihad Campbell, one of the best linebackers here as well. But I want to focus on edge. And I think Mykel Williams fits the bill for them. They have the pass rush right now with Trey Hendrickson, one of the best sack production defensive ends in the NFL. So let's shore up the run game on the other side there and let him learn. I think if Mykel Williams is the type of guy that's like a DeMarcus Lawrence type of edge. He can get you 6 sacks guaranteed for the year, maybe even getting to double digits, but for run defense, he's going to provide that to you. And guys, would you believe Shadur Sanders has fallen all the way down here to number 18? I bet you the Seahawks would have thought twice before drafting and paying Sam Darnold if that was the case. So I got a bunch of question marks here. Hawks grade, B, I think. DeMarcus Lawrence, aging player, 3 years, $42 million, coming off a Liz Frank injury. I'm a Cowboys fan. I know all about him. Missed almost half the season last year. They need to build better across the offensive line. And really, they signed Cooper Kupp, so that's a big one for them as well. And Marquise Valdez Scantling, both turning 30 years old. I know Cooper Kupp's not showing on this list, but they traded away DK Metcalf. So Geno Smith leaves, Sam Darnold comes in. I'm going to consider that a straight up wash. Marquez Valdez Scantling comes in along with Cooper Kupp. DK Metcalf leaves. I'm going to consider that an upgrade. I think they can get the same production out of Cooper Kupp, maybe a little bit more out of Valdez Scantling as another receiver as well. DeMarcus Lawrence, somebody who can be that guy in the run game for them. So they need wide receivers, not a need for them anymore. Cornerback potentially, offensive lineman as well, safety, defensive line. So cornerback, Jahdae Barron, definitely see him being a pick here. When we're looking at offensive line, Tyler Booker, somebody as well. I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Booker over Jahdae Barron. I'm going to say that these guys went ahead and built around their quarterback. They pay this guy. They put a star number one wide receiver next to him. They put another number two next to him. I mean, it's, speculation whether you consider Cooper Kupp a one or a two, but they go ahead and they have Devin Witherspoon, who's the only starting corner there on their defense. So can they pick Jahdae Barron? They definitely can, but I think the interior offensive lineman value is just way too much to pass up with Tyler Booker there. Next, we're going to move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And who are we taking with the Bucs here, guys? Bucs are coming in at pick 19. They got defensive end Hassan Reddick, 1 year, $14 million. They also signed Chris Godwin, 3 years, $66 million. Doesn't it look damn stupid that Hassan Reddick held out all last year almost to get nothing on the free agent market? Defensive end lost there. Offensive lineman Robert Hainsey lost as well. They need help at linebacker. So Levante David's been paid for a year, but that foundational piece likely needs to get replaced. Cornerback's another piece here as well, an edge. We could go linebacker. We could go Jihad Campbell, but I just think Jahdae Barron here is way too much of a value for them to take at corner. And he's sitting there and he's like a blinking light. You know what I mean? Jihad Campbell, yes, he's the best linebacker on the board right now. But when it comes to corners, like we're going to Siobhan Ravel, Maxwell Harrison, Trey Amos, all second round guys. Honestly, I have Jahdae Barron ranked in my top 10. I don't think that Bucs fans would be upset whatsoever if he goes ahead and goes to that team there. I'm going to go back in hindsight, okay? And I'm just going to look to see, why did Shedeur Sanders drop for me this far? And the reason is the Cleveland Browns, they'd rather take Abdul Carter. I don't care what you guys say in terms of this mock. Trust me, Abdul Carter's the better player. No concern with that whatsoever. And then the conversation turns around to the Giants, right? Why is Shedeur Sanders here? It's because I think the Giants are going to go with a veteran quarterback. I think they're going to pair a veteran with somebody like Malik Neighbors to operate their offense. And they probably believe they're going to draft this high again next year. They're going to be a crap team. They're going to draft in the top 5 again for the next couple of years. So that is a reason, guys, that I have Shedeur dropping this far. And I just wanted to address that because I know a ton of you guys in the comments are going to say, no way, this guy's going to go in the first round. No, guys, let's be realistic here. Another guy that's dropped quite far, Tyler Warren, right? And this is how things change with free agency. We have Broncos coming in here. They need running back, wide receiver, cornerback. Broncos have put themselves in a position where they can focus on Bo Nix. Running back one is a need that stands out the most, but they need to also target someone to pair up with Cortland Sutton. His contract's expiring after the 2025 campaign. Now, where do they go? Tight ends a need for them. Wide receivers a need for them as well. Cornerbacks a need for them. We just took the best corner off the board. I don't think any of these corners deserve to go this high. So let's go ahead and I wanted to just bring that up one more time before we leave this what's up on your screen here, I'm going to give the Broncos a B. They got Evan Ingram as a tight end, so they solved that. That's why I'm not going to pick Tyler Warren here. They got Dre Greenlaw, another linebacker, 3 years, $48 million coming off an Achilles injury. I think Sean Payton will be happy with that. And they got Talona Huafunga, who will be a fantastic piece there on safety for them. And the only person they had leaving was a running back number 2. So they could take Tyler Warren, but we just told you they signed Evan Ingram to a 2-year deal. So do they take this guy and just waste that money? No, I don't think so. They could take wide receiver. This is where the conversation gets interesting. Would you rather have Ibuka, Burden, or Omarion Hampton? I think those are the 3 choices. Are you going to put Ibuka or Burden beside Sutton, or are you going to have Omarion Hampton or Travion Henderson running the ball for this team? I'm going to go ahead, not make the mistake. Sean Payton loves to run the ball. He loves to make life for Bo Nix easier. I'm going to go ahead and take Omarion Hampton. Let's not make things complicated. Now we have the Chargers up here on the clock next, number 22. Chargers have come in and signed running back Najee Harris, 3 years, $30 million. That solves that need for them. Sorry, before I missed a team here. We actually missed the Steelers. So Steelers are coming up number 21 first, right before. And lots to talk about with the Steelers, guys. Lots of moves here. I'm going to grade this a B+. They paid DK Metcalf 5 years, $150 million. Short up a cornerback for a year, 1 year, $10 million. I think Darius Slay can still start. Yeah, he's not the Pro Bowl corner we're used to, but he is a damn good starter. Linebacker Malik Harrison, 2 years, $10 million. They just continue to build on this defense, and then they get this number 1 wide receiver for whatever direction they want to go. I'm going to take Shadur Sanders. Why the hell not? Why wouldn't I take Shadur Sanders here, right? This makes perfect sense to me. Shadur Sanders drops all the way in the draft. He drops to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They haven't signed a veteran. They're not signed up with Aaron Rodgers yet, so I won't take that off there. And even if Aaron Rodgers did sign with this team, who is a better person to learn behind from? I know he's not the best with rookie cornerbacks, but guys, this makes way too much sense to me. Steelers fans are ecstatic that they go ahead and get their quarterback of the future. Now, apologies, we'll move on to number 22 now. Chargers coming in with a grade of a C. Najee Harris is signed 3 years, $30 million. Dante Jackson signed 2 years, $13.5 million. They lose Joey Bosa on the edge to the Bills. They lose Puna Ford. They lose Christian Fulton. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers here, and they need a bunch of guys. This is what I'm saying. Let the draft fall to you. Chargers' number 1 need coming in, tight end. They need to draft and inject a jolt or even a couple of jolts of offensive firepower that's going to make sense to this team that was held to 17 points or fewer, in seven times last year. Najee Harris is here. Mike Williams is signed. I'm going to make life easy for myself. Take the best tight end that's left on the board. Guys, do you see how this goes when you're at you're in the 10s and you're in the 20s? Just let the draft fall to you with BPA. There's a ton of teams here. Last 2 picks, specifically, Shadur Sanders falls to the Steelers. I bet you Steelers fans are breaking their TV because they're so freaking happy they got their quarterback for the future. And then Chargers fans are also throwing their beer at the wall because they got Tyler Warren, top 5 ranked player on Daniel Jeremiah's board, to be that guy for their quarterback, Justin Herbert. Now, Green Bay Packers come up here on the board. The Packers did they did an okay job in free agency. They got Nate Hobbs, 4 years, $48 million. Probably a little bit of an overpay, but who's not overpaying when it comes to free agency? No one's out here signing deals. Everyone's getting paid. Aaron Banks solves a big need for them at guard. So I would typically take Josh Simmons here for them. But it doesn't appear Gerald Alexander is on this team anymore, and Hobbs is going to be that replacement. Deep speed at receiver could be critical. And, Christian Watson rehabs from an ACL tear, so he is not going to be the same player for them ever again. I'm going to be honest with that. I've been watching Christian Watson for quite some time. Very, very disappointed with his rookie campaign. After this injury, I don't think he's going to be that guy for them. So they need to go ahead and get a receiver. I'm going to say that DK Metcalf was a huge slip for these guys. I think 5 years, $150 million. He was that prolific guy you could have paired Jordan Love up with and took pressure off the team. But now they need to look to the draft in order to do this. And Abuka's here, Luther Burden's here. Abuka plays all over the line. Luther Burden's a little bit more of a speed threat. I know they mentioned here that cornerback is maybe a forefront of a priority. I don't think the cornerback is here on the board. I think receiver is the best thing that they can do. And I'm gonna go ahead and take it pains me here because I think about it taking Burden, right? And I think about taking Burden and I think about how much speed this team needs, but I can't pass up on Abuka. I think Abuka fits that Packers offense. Abuka can move all throughout the line. He can play outside X, Y, Z, wherever you want to put him. And he's going to be a really good addition for Jordan Love in a wide receiver room that has a bunch of mediocre guys and that's waiting for that number one to emerge. Now, Vikings are on the clock, number 24. We're very close to the end here, guys, for the first round. What I'd say is if you guys want me to continue and do this next week and go through 2 or 3 rounds, comment on there. Let me know what's up. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there as well since we're almost through the video. Guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Love what I do for you guys. Love the guys that comment back. Love all the folks on Reddit, Twitter, everybody that's watching my videos. I need feedback to make these better, so please put that in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel. We hit 110 subscribers this week. I'm trying to get to a few thousand before the season starts, so quite a bit of work to go. But guys, hit that subscribe button. Help me get there. I love what I do, and I love football. Now, going forward here, Vikings, I'm going to give them a grade, and my grade for the Vikings at number 24 is honestly, it's going to be an A. Look at all these additions the Vikings had, and look how they set up their quarterback for the future. JJ McCarthy's coming off a terrible injury. He was looking fantastic in the preseason last year. They signed offensive guard Will Fries, 5 years, $88 million. They signed cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, a little bit of a stopgap there, 2 years, $15 million. Then they go ahead and bolster their offensive line even more. Center Ryan Kelly signed 2 years, $18 million. They put these vets on the line in front of JJ McCarthy, and then they shore up the trenches one more time. Sorry, twice. Jonathan Allen, 3 years, $51 million, going to be a huge player for them. Vikings always seem to have their 1 and 3 techniques figured out. And then we have Javon Hargrave, 2 years, $30 million. Both these guys are paired up together to shore up that defense in the middle. They lose Sam Darnold, but they're getting their starter back. And I don't think anybody expected Sam Darnold to do what he did last year. He gets paid $100 million going to Seattle. They lose safety Cameron Bynum as well, who is a quality player. But the Vikings are coming in here. They have needs at cornerback. I don't think they've solved that with Isaiah Rodgers. They've solved their needs at offensive line. They still have needs at safety, linebacker, defensive line here. So where can we go with this free agency? They solved a lot of needs. And I don't think that safety is an option here for them. Like, we can take Malachi Starks, right? We can say that safety is a need for them, and he's a player that's ranked pretty high here, right? We have Jihad Campbell, Colston Loveland, and Malachi Starks comes next. Can we go O-line? When we go interior, we still have Greg Zabel. I think they solved their problems there. Josh Simmons is a guy that's on the offensive line here as well. So Minnesota only holds 4 picks in the draft. So it's very important to make this decision with the first round pick. And they don't have the ability to flexibility to address needs through the draft this year. So the board's fairly wide open. They need starting players at left guard and corner, and they need a starting safety that can learn behind Harrison Smith. So, guard, Greg Zabel. Josh Simmons, more of a tackle. I don't think you draft him to play guard, although he would be fantastic there. Simmons is up here for contention for us in terms of picking. I think Malachi Starks is up here for me as well. And now the sleeper pick is defensive line. They solved that problem, right? So we'll just go ahead and cross this off. Cornerback is another need. Don't think these corners make sense. So we're looking at really Jihad Campbell, Colston Loveland, Malachi Starks, Kenneth Grant. I think this is legit how it goes. Derek Harmon maybe in consideration. But we're going to eliminate Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon from the free agency moves, and we're just going to stick to Jihad Campbell and Malachi Starks. Jihad Campbell, one of the best guys in the draft here. Malachi Starks, they still have Harrison Smith, 36 years old. I still think they can hold on to him for one more year. They draft a linebacker, a middle linebacker, who's probably one of the best cover linebackers in the draft. They've made him extremely successful by putting Hargrave and Jonathan Allen in front of him there. So now we move on to the Houston Texans. I honestly am, as a Cowboys fan, I'm extremely happy. You know, we only need one team in Texas. But as a Texans fan, I'm depressed, man. I'm giving myself a D. They lost Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders. And I'm going to be a little bit sad when I go over the Commanders free agency and a couple picks here as well. But Houston's moved this offseason, trading away Laramie Tunsil for a second-round pick. They put offensive line and center on the top of their list for needs. They should be eyeing both tackle and interior depth to help, they're pretty good quarterback there with CJ Stroud. And they probably also need a wide receiver that's opposite Nico Collins, as Tank Dell has suffered a fatal injury there towards the end of the year. So they got Greg Zabel here, but they also have Josh Simmons. Now they just traded a tackle away. They pick up a tackle again with their first round draft pick. He dropped to number 25 for me because of the knee injury concerns. But from what I've heard from the inside information coming out from the combine, it doesn't seem to be too bad. So I don't think that that's a problem for them going forward. Rams are up here next at number 26. So Rams go ahead, B plus for me. Puna Ford, one of the best defensive tackles. Just literally watched an interview with Jason Kelsey talking about how Puna Ford was one of the hardest people he went up against on a down in and down out basis. Wide receiver Devontae Adams signed as well. They get an upgrade from Cooper Kupp, 2 years, $44 million. Sheldon Rankins, still a quality player. So I think they upgraded from Cooper Kupp. Jonah Jackson, Coleman Shelton kind of is a wash there. They upgraded with Puna Ford, and they upgraded with Sheldon Rankins. What do they need now? Linebackers in need, off-ball linebacker. They haven't made traditional significant investments there. They could also use one more starter at the corner position. And the top three defensive backs and starting tackle are a year away from free agency. Same need at tight end there. So linebacker, we just stole that off the board there. And that's still a need, right? Carson Schweschinger, I don't think he's a guy that's going to go this high. Now, when we go to corner, we have Shavon Ravel Jr., Maxwell Harrison. I don't think it could be potential that they take Ravel Jr. if they like him here. Greg Zabel's another pick for them as well. But they have a real big need at corner. And their wide receiver need has been figured out. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with the best corner on my board. I'm going to go ahead and take Josh Connerly, another person they could take for the future, but I'm going to go ahead and draft the best corner on my board. He's the third corner taken in the draft here, and I don't think that they think that linebacker is something they should address in the first round. Moving on to the Ravens here at number 27. How we grading the Ravens in free agency? I'm going to say anywhere from a C plus to a B minus. Lamar Jackson, let's be honest, guys, a little bit injury prone. He's been injured for a significant amount of time during the last portion of the year to enter into the playoffs, where they've actually either gone into the playoffs and lost or missed. So Cooper Rush coming in from the Cowboys, he fits that need for them. They lost Patrick McCarry. They re-signed Ronnie Stanley. Like I said, your re-signs are not included on here, but they get that wide receiver help they need. I think DeAndre Hopkins a little bit later in his career, but he can definitely help Lamar Jackson 1 year, $6 million. Now, this team has needs at offensive line, but they signed Ronnie Stanley, but they still need to sign up the other side. They have needs at corner, safety, defensive line as well. I keep saying it, guys. Malachi Starks is that guy that's just going to go ahead and be the best player available for the Ravens. He's going to fit what Eric DaCosta wants at GM. Cornerback and interior defensive line took hits this offseason. I think they can put this guy anywhere in their secondary. He's a very smart, high IQ player, pair him up with Kyle Hamilton. They took another corner in the first round last year as well with Nate Wiggins. Fantastic pickup here. Makes a ton of sense for me for the Ravens. Now, coming in next at number 28, we have 4 picks left here in the draft. Like Aiden Hutchinson's coming back this year, right? So he's coming back off of breaking his leg. They've upgraded their cornerback position with DJ Reed. Carlton Davis leaves, but they got an upgrade there. Zadarius Smith leaves, older player, washed, no concern. Malafonu leaves, no concern at corner there. They just need more depth. So what do they need? They need someone opposite Aiden Hutchinson. It's Marcus Davenport right now. He's headed into year 8, so I think edge is somewhere they're going to be shopping. When we look at edge right now, Izaraku is somebody that's there. Nick Skirden's there as well. Offensive line on the interior, Greg Zabel, that would be a fantastic pickup for them. They can continue to run the ball and build the trenches. We just took Malachi Starks off the board. Defensive lines here as well. I don't think they take Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon. So when it comes to their needs, I do think they're going to take an edge. O-line is second, but they need somebody that can be productive next to Aiden Hutchinson. And I'm going to go ahead and take this Texas A&M product, Nick Skirden, off the board. He's my best edge on my personal board that's left. And I think that they'll be extremely happy taking that pick and pairing him up beside one of the best edge rushers that are in the draft right now. Commanders are coming up at number 29. We're going to, honestly, I hate saying this, Commanders got an A+ in free agency. They got wide receiver Deebo Samuel, number 1 target now for Jaden Daniels. They have Laramie Tunsil here, number 1 left tackle here for Jaden Daniels. Gave up a second-round pick there. Javon Kinlaw comes in for this team, shores up that defensive line. Largest void to fill here is Dante Fowler, who had 10.5 sacks for Dan Quinn, and he's leaving to the Cowboys. So they need to add some competition on the edge there. It'd be wise for them to take a wide receiver as well. Let's just look at how the board fell for the Commanders. They have a safety here, touted very, very athletic, but I don't think they need that. Edge and offensive tackle are the 2 things that they'd be looking at, even corner as well. So we're going to say that, Dan Quinn is ecstatic that Texas A&M takes Skirden off the board, leaves Izaraku there for them, and they can go ahead and take that edge and replace that production from Dante Fowler from last year. Bills are up next at number 30. Bills have, the depth at cornerback is super shaky here. They gave up Kyra Elam, who every Bills fan says is a bust, to the Cowboys, so they're giving up defensive end Von Miller as well. I do think that's a huge upgrade there with Joey Bosa, so I'm giving them a B+. Listen, guys, the Bills signed Von Miller to be that pass rusher for them. Unfortunately, he decided to beat his girlfriend up, go to jail, get suspended, and just be, huge question mark for this team. They gave up on him. They gave up on Mac Hollins as well. They traded him to the Patriots, get a little draft capital back there. So now they have that pass rusher that they need beside Greg Rousseau, paid $80 million this year as well. So I think that that's fantastic. Where can they go from here? 2 options for me if I'm a Bills GM. Looking at corner, I'm looking at defensive line. And honestly, when we look at the corners that are left, Maxwell Harrison here, probably one of the fastest corners on the board, and Trey Amos, Isaiah Thomas. It's very, very tempting. My picks are going to be between these 3 corners and likely who's left here for defensive line. Kenneth Grant, they need a 1 technique. And they need someone like Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant. And when I'm looking at these guys, can I pass on prospects like Isaiah Thomas? Do I think Kenneth Grant's a better prospect than Isaiah Thomas? Probably not. But you know what? Defensive line is the strongest depth in this draft. I do think they can always circle around in the second round and get that 1 technique to play in the middle. And they go ahead and get the cornerback, which is extremely shaky for depth for them. They get a man press corner, somebody who they wanted in Kyra Elam, and that can fit that bill, play press coverage, and be that starting corner for them in Sean McDermott's defense. Now we're at the Chiefs' second last pick in the draft. I mean, everyone's glazing the Chiefs here. They always give them like a B or A for free agency. I'm not going to do that. They got a C+. Got a ton of departures here. Joe Thuney left. Safety Justin Reed. leaves as well. And then they have a huge question mark here at now wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, especially with their number one pick getting involved in some legal troubles. So they get Jalen Moore to come on the offensive line. They continue to put that presence around Patrick Mahomes. 3 years, $27 million. Running back Elijah Mitchell seems to me like Andy Reid can run with a 7th round running back or undrafted free agent every single year. So I think that'll be huge for them. Christian Fulton comes in there, 2 years, $20 million. So what am I looking at when I'm looking at the Chiefs? Kansas City was no match for the Philadelphia Eagles in the trenches when the title was on the line last season. I wouldn't be surprised here to see offensive and defensive line as a top priority in the list. Chiefs are going to need more production off the edge as well. They're going to need to replace Justin Reed, DeAndre Hopkins, likely later on into the draft. So, offensive line and defensive line are the two places that I'm looking. Kenneth Grant. The reason that I'm going to pick Kenneth Grant is because he plays the one technique position a little bit different than Chris Jones. Derek Harmon is a little bit of a Chris Jones clone, so I won't go there. I don't think they go ahead and take Connerly or Greg Zabel this high, although I do think there are options for them. But I do think the Chiefs need more help in the trenches, and they need more help to attack. They're going to go ahead and go up against the Eagles again in the Super Bowl. They need people to attack the Eagles' offensive line. Yes, they need protection around Patrick Mahomes, but we're going to go ahead and bring this graphic up one more time. They signed, a tackle here in Jalen Moore. So I don't think that they take an interior offensive lineman this high. That's my reasoning behind that take. Number 32, let's see how the board fell for the Eagles. They have Colson Loveland here, Nick Emanuari, Derek Harmon, Luther Burden, Greg Zabel, Jackson Dart still on the board as our best quarterback. They have a tackle at Connerly, Maxwell Hairston, bunch of players left on the board here. So what do the Eagles do and how do they grade out in free agency? Guys, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, right? And what they're doing is they're doing the exact same strategy they had last year. They're bargain bin shopping for high potential athletic players that have either been busts or they haven't lived up to their potential, and they're hoping with the coaching and the other talent around them, they're able to go ahead and make these guys elite. Milton Williams left for a massive contract. Josh Sweat left for a massive contract. CJ Gardner gets traded for draft capital. These are 3 starters that are leaving the Eagles defense alone. So am I going to go ahead and say they replaced that? They definitely didn't. They got a starter offensive guard, Kenyon Green, someone who is touted as a first-round draft pick a couple of years ago. He hasn't lived up to his billing, so we'll see how they did there. Signed linebacker Zach Bond, mega deal, 3 years, $51 million. So where do the Eagles go from here? They need edge. They need interior offensive line. Kind of got that with Kenyon Green, but we'll see how that is. Screaming needs don't exist in Philadelphia. But after the departures of DB CJ Gardner-Johnson, defensive lineman Milton Williams, and edge rusher Josh Sweat, I think there's something that could be said about, much to be excited about what they're building at corner and what they need to do here at some other positions. So let's just go through the board. We're on our last pick. Edge, Landon Jackson, a little bit too high for me. Interior offensive line, Greg Zabel, makes a lot of sense. Safety, Nick Emanuari, I think they might think Xavier Watts is the better safety on their board. Cornerback, this is where things get interesting. Maxwell Hairston, one of the fastest corners there. Trey Amos, more of a bigger guy. And edge, they don't have too many options. So for me, it's between Hairston, Emanuari. Luther Burden's a huge pickup for them here as well. They could get cheaper at receiver, but that's big, right? Burden's dropped here for me. He's dropped into the end of the first round. Think about what Philly's going to be thinking here with this pick. We're going to get a 5th-year option on this player. Where do we want it? Likely going to be offensive line. They're going to go ahead and take the best interior offensive lineman available. I think my draft's complete here. Gives them an A. Guys, thanks so much for watching the film here. Like I said, I love doing this for you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what you guys want me to do next week. Would love to do these normal mocks where we do one round. Don't mind doing two. Don't mind doing three as well. And if there is a film session for any player that you guys are looking forward to, you let me know. I'll make sure I get it out to you guys. Love what you do. Love what you do every day. Touchdown Labs out.